J.J. Abrams' Star Trek is brilliant. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite trilogies there are. It gets some negative comments, but it was a good Star Trek trilogy. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why the movie is so good and brilliant and just beautiful. Visually, it's stunning. I'm going to be talking about why Kirk's character growth was amazing, why Spock was more human was brilliant, and why the timeline changes were good. Also talking about how good the music is and Spock versus Khan and some other things. Now, first starts off with the first timeline change with Kirk's father dying, which was probably shocking to original Star Trek fans because he's alive in the prime timeline, so just doing that right off the bat is showing, yes, this is a different timeline. And then we see Kirk as a kid, and he's kind of a troubled kid and young man, until he gets into the bar fight and Pike steps in and stops him. And I like how Pike was included into this universe. Captain Pike is one of my favorite captains, and I like that he was a father figure to Kirk because he didn't have that, and he didn't have his brother like in the original timeline. But this is still the Kirk we've come to know and love. He cheated in the Kobayashi Maru test. He's still a ladies' man. He violated the Prime Directive, go save Spock, but a lot of people complain that a cadet should not have gone to the Enterprise, and I do agree with that statement. Giving a cadet who's about to get kicked out of Academy a starship without any proper training, let alone the flagship of the Federation, he did deserve it. He proved himself by defeating the Romulans, but I feel like promoting him to captain first was a mistake. They should have promoted him to first officer and have him shadow someone like Pike or a different captain on the Enterprise to get him experience. He probably just needed a solid year, and that follows into Star Trek Into Darkness when he's getting disciplined by Admiral Pike. He goes, "You know how many crew members I lost? Not one, not one." I think he thought he had to prove himself to other people because you gotta think he's still a cadet when he got the starship, so he's gotta be the youngest person in Starfleet history to get a ship. So in his eyes, he's like, okay, I gotta prove that I didn't just get lucky. He doesn't want people to think that, or some people might think that he just got lucky. He might be trying to prove, hey, I am a good captain and I did earn this, and he did earn it. He might have also been trying to make Pike proud because he's a father figure to him, and when he died, it really did affect him, and he got his ship, but eventually he lost his ship, but that still follows into Star Trek Into Darkness and beyond. At the end of Star Trek Into Darkness, he lost a lot of crew members, which hit him harder than a lot of people might think because he's never lost a crew member before, not let alone he almost lost a lot of the people he cares about. And by the end, he's just a little bit more rounded with himself, and then we go straight into Star Trek Beyond, and it takes place about 3 years after, and you can see how much of a character growth he's had, and it's amazing. He's still the witty Kirk we know and love, but he's a little bit more laid back in a good way. He's more sure of himself, he's more confident. He still takes risks, but he's still there to rescue his crew. He's willing to risk his life to save people in the giant damn snow globe in space just waiting to break, and that's what makes him a good character, because he just went through all this character development in the first two, and now in the third one. Star Trek Beyond also brought a great parody, because in the beginning we learned that he's 1 year older than his father would have been, but in the end his father sacrificed himself so him and his mother could escape, but he was willing to sacrifice himself so the people in Yorktown wouldn't die, and by doing that he would have saved his family as well, like his father did, because you have to think Scotty, Bones, and Spock he's very close with, and that's his family. And that's what makes the parody between him and his father so good. He may have never met his father, but you can see his father through him and through his actions. That's what makes his character arc so good throughout the entire franchise, probably the best.
Better to die saving lives than to live with taking them. That's what I was born into.
I stand by that. This is probably the best character arc we've seen in the entire trilogy, and how they handled this was just amazing and brilliant. Now, some of the timeline changes included how they had androids when they weren't supposed to have it for at least another 120 years, 140 years, and then Spock and Uhura was very controversial when it came out, as well as the Vulcan homeworld imploding and Spock being more human, which I like to see him more human because it's something we really hadn't seen before. Now, Spock and Uhura was very controversial when it came out, but I think it was a good choice. It is one of the biggest decisions we saw for the timeline driving home that, hey, this is a different timeline, buckle up, this is gonna be a new one. I personally really liked it because this brought out Spock's more human side, which we haven't really seen before, and Zachary Quinto did an amazing job at Spock, and Leonard Nimoy helped pick him. He's an amazing Spock, and anyone who says that he's not is wrong, in my opinion. Hiring a new actor to play someone as iconic as Spock, especially when it's only been played by one character throughout the whole original series in the 60s, 6 movies, and a guest appearance on Next Gen can be difficult. But having Leonard Nimoy being the one to help pick him out is a good way to pass down the torch to someone new, and he was there throughout the 2 movies to help coach him through what it is to be Spock. But Zachary Quinto had an interesting time playing Spock because he's more on his human side compared to the original Spock. Even his father expressed emotions when he said, "I married your mother because I loved her," which is a big deal for Vulcans because they don't feel love or any emotions. And that's what I love about this Spock. We got to see the human side of him, how much he cares for Kirk when he died and how he went after Khan. Seeing him in full rage was amazing yet scary. Seeing him love Uhura, and then how the death of his planet and mother really affected him and he gave up command of the Enterprise. One thing I liked about him showing emotions is that he was logical throughout a lot of the movies, but when it came to him showing emotions, he incorporated the logical side of Vulcan, but yet the tender sweetness of a human. Like how he was talking with Nyota in Star Trek Into Darkness when they're on the Klingon planet flying around, how he didn't want to feel those emotions again of anger he felt when his planet imploded. And that's why they did his emotions very, very well. When Spock was fighting Khan, you have to think Vulcans are about 3 times stronger than humans, and with Spock being half human, he's got to be about 1.5 times stronger than normal humans. And he was actually holding his own against Khan for a while there. You gotta think adrenaline was probably pumping for him, especially when he jumped on the ship. Wow, I didn't know Vulcans could jump that high. And since he was letting his anger take over, Vulcan emotions are stronger than humans. Pile that on just the human will to just kill whoever killed your loved ones. Yikes, Khan really had it coming. If it wasn't for Uhura, he would have killed him. The fight was amazing. It's the best hand-to-hand combat we've seen throughout the entire trilogy, and the fight was just brilliant and beautiful. It's just amazing. Like, it's just a really good fight scene. And I love the parody it brought out with Spock not killing him because he knew it was the only way to save Kirk, and how in the Prime timeline Kirk disobeyed because there was a slight chance Spock might be alive. He's like, I have to save my friend in both timelines. Spock and Kirk's relationship is the best example from enemies to best friends, because in the beginning Kirk didn't really like the green-blooded hobgoblin because he called him out for cheating on the Kobayashi Maru test. I know I said that wrong. Do not come for me in the comments section. I'm looking at you specifically, Multiversal Musels. But he also stranded him on the ice planet, which really set in his hatred for him, and then he met the other Spock and started to learn what best friends they are in the original timeline. Sure, he made him mad and made him beat him up, but that's because the other Spock recommended it so he could get command of the Enterprise and go stop Nero from destroying his second homeworld of Earth. And when the original Spock is talking to Kirk and he said, "Trust me, I am emotionally compromised," you have to think that Spock is almost 200 years old and this Spock is only probably around 30, so he knew himself really well, and it's nice to see Leonard Nimoy Spock expressing emotions in the Vulcan way. And one sad detail about this trilogy about Leonard Nimoy Spock is that he originally went to go save the supernova from Romulus to help, save the Romulan people, but I think he also helped this would reunite Vulcan and Romulus like he's been trying to do all these years. But it did pay off. In Star Trek Discovery, we learned that the Vulcan homeworld was renamed Ni'Var after the Romulans and Vulcans now coexist. But the sad part is Leonard Nimoy Spock would have never known that because he died in this timeline and he was stuck in this timeline, but it's reassuring to know that all his hard work paid off eventually. Back to Kirk and Spock's relationship, by the end of the movie they're trusting each other and it's just a good friendship. In at the end of Star Trek Into Darkness, when Kirk dies, I love the parody of him putting his hand on the glass like they did in the original when Spock died, especially with them including the Vulcan hand gesture. Fun fact, the Vulcan hand gesture is actually a Jewish prayer. Leonard Nimoy saw a rabbi do it when he was younger and was just magically captured away by it, and when he got cast as Spock, he wanted to appear more alien, so he did that. Now, the music in this was amazing. I can't play any due to copyright, but when they're shooting at Nero's ship going through the black hole and he just goes silent with the singing was just amazing. When they're trying to escape the black hole and they have to detonate the warp core and go through that big blue cloud dust thing in space, I don't know what you call it, and it's just silence, and then once it emerges, it just starts playing the theme song. It was brilliant. And this is all from the first movie, especially when Spock is going to crash this black hole device into Nero's ship and then the Enterprise shows up to save him. Amazing. And then in Star Trek Beyond, when they had to use the radio, the song they chose to destroy all the little swarm ships, just complete and utter masterpiece. It was amazing. The only movie I've seen that can compare to this music-wise is The Batman. With With all that being said, how great this movie was, how good the music is, some people just don't like it, but what this movie franchise was trying to do is trying to get a new generation interested in Star Trek, and it worked. They designed these movies to be able to watch without knowing anything about Star Trek. I watched the Next Gen movies growing up. In some of the series, I finally watched the whole series when I was 13, but this is the Star Trek I fell in love with. This is the Star Trek I grew up on, and I watched these movies religiously, and I just loved them so much. Star Trek Into Darkness actually killed my TV. I was watching it on my parents' TV one day, and it just went dark, and the TV never turned back on, and then lo and behold, my parents had to buy a new one. So kind of funny, Star Trek literally killed my TV. Kind of ironic it happened with Star Trek Into Darkness, considering Khan was the main villain. He's a homicidal maniac, so he literally homicided my TV. These Star Trek movies were also designed for people to be able to watch it without knowing anything about Star Trek, so I think it's a good movie trilogy. If you want to get into Star Trek, I would watch these first, and then once you have an understanding, you can kind of branch out into other genres in the main timeline. This is one of the best alternate realities we've seen in cinema. J.J. Abrams was brilliant for producing these, being the director. He just did an amazing job, and I just can't wait for the new Star Trek movie to come out that's going to be set in an even different timeline. The new Star Trek movie is going boldly where no man has gone before, and it's going to be set with none of the characters we know, not Kirk, Spock, or anyone. It's just going to be completely new characters. I think it's going to pay off. I also like that we got to see starship battles in this, because we didn't really get to see that. We saw some of it in the Next Gen movies, but it was mainly based on the ground, and this is just a 7-year difference between the last Next Gen movie and the 2009 Star Trek. The CGI improvements in this is amazing, and I know we got to see a lot of starship battles in like Voyager, but just we didn't get to see it to this scale. Some people say that it's too action-packed and too fast-paced, and that Gene Roddenberry would be turning over in his grave in this, but it was just fitting with the modern time. And do you remember how action-packed the first season of Star Trek Next Gen was? Like, that thing had so much more action. It wasn't until Gene Roddenberry died in the later seasons of Next Gen that it got slowed down. And I'm not blaming any of the producers or anything. Next Gen is amazing. I'm just pointing out a fact that I noticed. They did a really good job on Next Gen, and it's regarded as one of the best Star Trek, if not the best Star Trek series that we've gotten. I don't want you guys to think I'm hating on it at all. I'm not. I love that series. But do you also know how action-packed Voyager is? Every episode had some action scene, except for a very few. And that made Voyager really good. It's in my top 3 favorite Star Trek series. So I'm just saying, don't you think if Gene Roddenberry had access to the same technology that we have, he would bring more of his vision to life like this? And it's also fitting with the modern times. And if you notice throughout Star Trek how much the technology evolves depending on what we think is futuristic, in the original series having a portable communication device was futuristic, but now in like something like Picard, having holograms is futuristic, so they're just going along with the modern times. Even if you don't like these movies saved Star Trek. After the ending of Enterprise, which was just awful, these movies came out and gave a fresh perspective to Star Trek, pulled in the younger audience and new generation got interested in Star Trek. It got me interested in Star Trek. Without these movies, I don't think I'd be sitting here and talking about them. They quite literally saved Star Trek because it could have been over after the end of Enterprise, and this is one of my favorite trilogies to ever come out. Also, the visuals in these movies are incredible, and just all what I've talked about is what made J.J. Abrams brilliant. He quite alone saved Star Trek. Everything I said is why J.J. Abrams is an amazing, brilliant, and talented, just great director. I thank him for saving Star Trek. It is my favorite franchise because it is so good. Live long and prosper.